So just to say who Sonoran Institute is, we are a conservation nonprofit founded in Tucson, but we work throughout the West, and we're really trying to connect people with the natural resources that sustain them. And since we're founded in Tucson, we've spent over 26 years now working in some capacity within the Santa Cruz watershed, even doing some work in Las Ciénegas long before my time. But today we're going to share with you some work on the Upper Santa Cruz, specifically from Rio Rico to Amado. And I'm just going to give a quick intro, and Ashley's going to give you the really big meat and potatoes part of the presentation. All right, so I know I don't need to tell this group that water is life, but I always like to start off presentations that way and just remind ourselves how critical water is, especially in these arid environments. And this is a map Nature Conservancy put out for our rivers and streams in 2010 that maps perennial flows in blue, and we add people to the mix, and all of a sudden we now have things called formerly perennial because we either put up a dam to regulate our water supply, or we have groundwater pumping that makes our rivers go dry. But communities then start giving back to the rivers, and we get the red color, which I'll zoom in on the Santa Cruz. We now have these effluent-dominated reaches. And though it's not a natural system by any means, it's really useful because we're still getting our flowing rivers and benefiting for wildlife and for people that can recreate in these areas. Just to show you what that looks like, if you haven't been to either stretch, we have two flowing stretches of the Santa Cruz. I feel like a lot of people know about the stretches river in the upper corner in Santa Cruz County, downstream of the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Facility. But a lot of people in the Tucson area do not realize we have a flowing stretch of the river, starting from the Sweetwater wetlands north to about Trico Road. It varies, of course. So really great that we have these two flowing stretches. And Sonoran Institute's Santa Cruz River Initiative is really trying to do three things with all of our work. We're trying to retain these flowing stretches for both the benefit of wildlife and the communities along these areas. We're trying to reconnect people to the river. As I mentioned, a lot of people don't even realize that the river used to flow, and it's still flowing in many places. And then where we can, working with partners to restore watershed conditions throughout the area. And for today, we're focused on, we're focused on the circled area, what we call the Upper Santa Cruz, the stretch from about Rio Rico to Amado. And with both of these stretches that are flowing with effluent, the water is in no way secure. It's currently being released into the river, but that could change over time as water demands increase, or we find other ways to use our water. And so how can we retain these flows? And so we're working towards, we're working on several angles of how to retain flows along the Upper Santa Cruz. First, we want to have conceptual water budget, which is what we're going to be sharing with you today, and that will help us understand, the water situation and the realm of possibilities, and along with that, understand what people actually want to see, what they value, what are the priorities for maintaining along the river, so that we can manipulate management to maintain these, and ultimately like to secure water for the river and continue monitoring conditions. And so with that, I'm going to switch over. We partnered with Water Resources Research Center on developing this conceptual water budget, and so I'm going to let Ashley take over from here.
Thank you, Claire. And yes, Claire is too modest because actually her and Jason Wellborn, somewhere in this room, had a lot to do with forming this and giving us the really critical data that made this a conceptual water budget that would work for stakeholders and how to relay that information. So it really went hand in hand. And also, before I get into things a little bit more, when we started this work back last spring, actually, spring of 2016, Kelly Montlecroix, who a lot of you know, was still here in Tucson, or back in Tucson, and so she really guided the methodology for this a lot. So today, Meyer told me that CWP was thinking about a water budget, so this is going to focus a lot more on methodology and data gathering, less so on results, although I will look a little bit at how we displayed the results and what were key findings. So first off, Claire had the great idea of actually introducing what is a conceptual water budget. So overall, a simple definition would be an accounting of the inflows and outflows of a system based on available data, which is key. I actually brought my copy of the groundwater modeling report from ADWR, which has been just thumbed through so much and noted up, and Kelly and I kind of fought over it when she left because she had like sentimental value for it by the time she left. So yes, that speaks to our lives grubbing over modeling reports. So, but in general, this is really to provide an overview of where our gaps may be in supply and demand. So it helps us ask the questions and kind of formulate things around what is scarcity, how to conceptualize that water scarcity, how do we display that, and what are we looking for, what response options are available, and how to establish priorities. So this is all going back to the goals that Claire mentioned before, and thank you for setting that up so well. So in the beginning, there were a lot of early decisions that Jason and Claire helped with a lot, and we've done a water budget in the Upper Gila watershed before, like in the Safford area, and so that was really different because they wanted to look at different things. Here, this is an environmental flows water budget, so it was very important that we look at seasonality. So we took that data from precipitation patterns to define 3 different seasons, winter, dry season, and monsoon season. And there wasn't really much of a difference between winter and fall, so they were put into one category. So there's some decisions made along the way, as you'll see through the rest of the presentation. And the study area, we actually met early on with Kat Lowe, who will be giving his presentation next. I'm very curious to see if his methods have changed since last year. But we decided to define our shallow aquifer system by unconsolidated and consolidated. So this line that you see that's all wiggly is our unconsolidated sediment, which is what we define as shallow aquifer. We further defined that study area by 3 reaches, which were approximately sized in area and length of the stream, and kind of went along with how they were doing their planning anyways. So with the water budget methods, we started out with identifying demand, which was almost the easiest if you like going through ADWR's data list, which not many people do. So it involved identifying their categories that they already had using the Wells 55 data. And we consolidated a couple categories, but mainly it fell into municipal, industrial, domestic, agriculture, and stock. So for another water budget we did, it was really important to stakeholders to parse out farming from ranching, because they're not the same, and they use different quantities of water. In this instance, we did lump agriculture into one. You can see over here with the size of the wells, how much water kind of relationally that they're using. So actually, I'll just switch back there. That's the geospatial analysis here in ArcGIS, and pulling the tabular data into ArcGIS is really important. And it made it so that we could look just within the confines of our study area. So there was that kind of necessity for, 1, a really expensive software, and 2, someone who knows how to work that really expensive software. Which luckily we have at the Water Center. But, and then the other demand, which is once again in Safford, for instance, much larger area of the Upper Gila, and we did not look at ET, which was critically a large chunk, especially in this case as well. So with evapotranspiration, we started out with a vegetation buffer, once again in GIS, within 700 meters of the river corridor. And then we divided that percentage of vegetation along the river corridor by each reach for a percentage. We used the ET estimates from the modeling report here, which was for the entire area. So to really get into this specific area and get a little more detailed in our approach, we actually used that with the percentages of vegetation for each part of the study area. That sounded convoluted, so you got something out of that. But, and then even more than that, we then put it into the seasons. So knowing our precipitation patterns and having a percentage of about approximately how much precipitation was falling each year, we were able to parse out the ET for monsoon and winter and dry season. So in the end, one of the results, we had different ways of framing this, looks like this. This is how we would visualize by season, winter, dry, monsoon, how our demand is fluctuating through the year. So that bottom yellow, brown poop color is agriculture, and then blue is ET, so our biggest two demands were those. And actually something to watch out for when you're working with tabular data and pivot tables is that we somehow botched agriculture demand. So for the longest time, we were really wondering, agriculture was about the same as maybe our municipal, that red line. And it was like, well, there doesn't seem to be a problem. There's not that much demand. Like, Santa Cruz is all set. You know, it's great. And then it wasn't until I was looking at incidental recharge, which was supposed to be 25% of this agricultural demand, that I realized they were the same, which didn't make any sense. And we found out that we had botched something. So data is fun, and triple checking is always good. So now getting into those supplies, having looked at our demands and tabulated all of that, we are now looking at supplies. And we parsed out our supplies into two general categories, surface water and groundwater. And then within that, surface water, we needed to look, because once again, environmental flows, we needed to look at what was effluent, what was coming from the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant, and what was natural stream flow or storm flows. And then with the groundwater recharge, that was based on the figures given in the groundwater modeling report, and then fine-tuned by the study area and further fine-tuned by seasons, as I said before. So here we'll look at how those results came out for the drier model, which is what we're really concerned about in terms of drought, what we've been concerned about for over 20 years now. So in a drier model for monsoon season, we're looking at groundwater. Oh, I got a little one here there. We're looking at groundwater still being the majority of our supply, stream flow coming next, and then effluent supporting some of it. Next, in the winter, groundwater grows. And lastly, in the dry season, we see that stream flow completely disappears. It goes from shrinking to disappears. And that's our entire quantity of surface flow right there in orange. And the rest is groundwater flow for supply. So parsing that out more, and here I've got a little pie chart to remind you what we're talking about. But so let's just look at groundwater supplies for a moment. And this is how it looks for all the reaches for a regular average steady state year. So if we're looking at steady state year, you'll see that dip in our dry season. And the effluent stays steady throughout. Now looking at surface water, so going back up, we're going to be just looking at our stream flow supply sources, which are effluent and storm flows. For the winter season, once again, effluent flows become more important in reach 3 because there's less of it, but it's still important because we're further away from the wastewater treatment plant. We look at monsoon season, once again, less important, reach 3, it's about half and half for reach 1 and 2. I should have the little map in the background that reach 1 and 2 being southern. And then for our dry season, kind of what you would expect, but worse. We have all effluent flows, no surface flows, 0% surface for stream or storm flows. And how that all stacks up together, all of our supplies in one. We've got our effluents really coming out strong in the dry season, whereas everything else is shrinking, and stream flow is 0 in that dry season. So the whole point of this, looking at demand versus supply, let's go through those just really quickly again. We've got our surface water and our groundwater supplies, how they stack up throughout the year, October through September. And then we put our demand, overlay demand on top of that. And you see that gap right there in the dry season. That's where effluent comes in. That is our critical season, and that's what's shaping what could be a different river if it wasn't supporting the Santa Cruz. So that's kind of, we had multiple different graphics and kind of showing this information and looking at different ways because people understand data and this information differently. One person really found this helpful, and after the fact, hindsight is 2020. We could have used this to look at how outputs and inputs to the system worked better, because this, just for your information, worked better for people to understand the system as a profile with a hydrogeologic profile in there. So, and then I didn't put any other graphics because we would have time, and we don't. So with that, if you'd like to see any other graphics or have any questions for me, yeah, you can definitely get in touch, and I think we might have time for one question.